Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, death serfs, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And let's talk a little bit about Saudi Arabia and this recent threat. Saudi Arabia warns of economic fallout if Congress passes a 9/11 bill. So what this is most people know by now, there's a coalition of congressmen who have been trying to have the 28 pages discussing the Saudi connection to 9/11 have them made public and have all the details exposed. And there's a lot of pressure from the 9/11 families to have this done as well because they want the Saudi Arabian government to be liable. And more recently, of course, the story's gotten a higher profile because there was a 60 Minutes special segment on this 28 pages. And the 28 pages go back to 2002. There was a congressional inquiry that showed that Saudi officials in the U.S. Helped the hijackers, and there's some connections with some of the Saudis who are living in the United States. And this is aside from the fact that the 9/11 Commission, quote, found no evidence that the Saudi government as an institution or senior Saudi officials individually funded the organization, unquote. And as the article points out, that's very carefully worded to say that the Saudi government as an institution and that senior Saudi officials were not involved. So they're being very specific there, and they continue to be specific, saying that they didn't individually fund the organization, unquote. So very fishy way to put it, because it certainly doesn't rule out the fact that a lot of variations on the theme could be done with Saudi government officials, senior Saudi officials, and more importantly, junior Saudi officials. And as we know from everything that I've ever done in videos, there's plenty of ways to squirrel money around if you want it to be done. So anyway, they're threatening to sell off $750 billion in treasuries and other assets, ostensibly to avoid being frozen, having these assets frozen by U.S. courts. So this antagonism between the United States and Saudi Arabia seems to be heating up. Experts, I think, rightly point out that the Saudis couldn't very well make good on this threat because it would do a significant amount of damage to their own economy. It'd be very hard to execute, and it would wreak havoc in the global economy and would come back to bite them. And the Obama administration has fought this bill and this legislation to reveal these 28 pages on technicalities, talking about maybe there's going to be retribution in the rest of the world and new legislation around the world that would reduce immunity for the U.S. Because a lot of this is based on a 1976 law that gives foreign nations immunity from lawsuits in U.S. courts. And part of this bill that the congressmen are introducing wants to adjust that law and not give immunity to countries that may have facilitated a terrorist attack on United States soil, which is what the implication is. So I think what's fascinating about this is it shows that the Saudi Arabians take this very seriously. And I'm not sure if they're just concerned about the lack of immunity in courts and being subject to lawsuits from these 9/11 families. But it seems to me they really don't want to have these connections revealed and have to have their dirty laundry aired. And of course, we all want to see this because it's going to shift the narrative away from the official narrative even more, finding out the Saudis were behind it, and then at some point, perhaps they will do an investigation of the Israeli connection to 9/11. I'm sorry, I was just kidding about that, of course. That'll never happen in a million years. But one of the disturbing aspects of this story is the 9/11 families. A lot of these people were compensated to a great extent. There was a lot of charity around for 9/11 victims, and the fact that they're hiring lawyers and trying to go after even more sources of money is a little disconcerting. But another part of the story that I want to tag on here, I was going to do a separate video on it, but it's about John McCain and Saudi Arabian money. And so we're going to see that John McCain certainly is not going to support this bill because not only has he been very cozy with Saudi Arabia and their components in Syria and meeting with Al-Qaeda members and future ISIS members, all set up by Saudi Arabia. So McCain has been a facilitator for the Saudi Arabian policies and regime already. But it turns out that Saudi Arabia gave $1 million to the John McCain Foundation, the John McCain Institute for International Leadership. And it's significant because it's the first time that a foreign government has contributed directly to the foundation of a sitting U.S. official. So yeah, it does have kinship to the fact that the Clinton Foundation has had millions and tens of millions of dollars of Saudi money given to them, and they funnel it to Hillary in her re-election. They funnel it to Hillary and Bill Clinton through this foundation. And that's true, but at the time that they've gotten the Saudi money, they haven't been sitting U.S. officials, although certainly it's debatable whether Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State when Saudi money was coming into her coffers at the foundation. So the other part of the McCain story, of course, is this was done while the Iran deal was being negotiated. So now we get a little more insight as to where McCain's allegiances were being bought off by Saudi Arabia, so that McCain would be against the Iran deal. And this money that McCain got in his foundation also was not initially disclosed, and when he got it in 2014, so he wasn't exactly forthcoming. Certainly knows the implications of the Saudi money, but I find that a fascinating chapter in all this as well, because I just did videos about how Israeli money and how Muslim money influences U.S. elections. And here we get another good example of how Muslim money, and particularly Saudi Arabian money, which is the only money that really seems to get represented in the United States, helps buy them policy. And so McCain was against the Iran deal because he's a puppet and bootlicker for Saudi Arabia, and no doubt he's going to be against these 28 pages because he's a bootlicker and agent for Saudi Arabia. So the one aspect of this too that I want to bring up, of course, is that technically all this stuff is legal. It's not technically illegal for the McCain Foundation to get money from Saudi Arabia, but the foundation has direct ties to McCain's campaign, and that's what makes it a little fishy. And U.S. federal law bans foreign contributions to electoral campaigns. Yeah, good luck with that. But the restriction doesn't apply to nonprofits engaged in policy. So they always find a loophole to make sure that all this foreign money and this funny money can keep being filtered into affecting American policy, affecting American elections, and making sure that people like McCain don't necessarily serve the interests of the United States, but serve the interests of their paymaster, Saudi Arabia. So yeah, what a surprise. What's Saudi Arabia so afraid of? I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too?